What is the best expression of the main conclusion of this argument? 11% of nurses across the country would like to leave the profession. However, this figure rises to 39% amongst nurses who are working alternating shift systems, which mix day, evenings, and night shifts. It was found that many nurses preferred one type of shift most of the time, whether that involved working early, late, or through the night. Employers should urgently review staffing arrangements to avoid the compulsory alternating patterns. This would make nurses' working hours more compatible with their social and family lives. A further benefit would be a reduction in the cost of training new nurses to replace those leaving. For the course of action, it's recommending the main conclusion of the paragraph is that we should urgently review the staffing arrangements to avoid compulsory alternating patterns. It gives you 7 reasons to believe this. Firstly, this seems to be the preference of nurses. Secondly, that there are high rates of wanting to leave among nurses who are having to work this alternating system. Thirdly, that this would be more compatible with their social and family lives. And fourthly, there would be a reduction in cost of training. So, A, the health service should adapt shift patterns to suit nurses in order to retain staff. So this is the conclusion of the paragraph, that we need to review these staffing arrangements, we need to change them potentially so that they can be more suitable for nurses. B, alternating shift systems cause nurses to want to leave the health service. That's a too strong conclusion. We don't have sufficient reason to believe that. We know that there's a high rate of wanting to leave amongst these nurses, but we don't know if that's the reason. There may be other factors in common amongst these nurses that aren't common about nurses generally. C, many nurses prefer a regular pattern of work. That's a reason to support the conclusion, it's not conclusion. D, some nurses would like to leave the profession no matter what their shift pattern. This is just irrelevant. And E, 61% of nurses prefer alternating shift patterns. No, and there's not enough evidence to support that's a misuse of the statistic as well. So the answer is A. Which of the following total scores for the 4 matches is not possible? To play a football pools game, participants must select 4 matches from the 50 on the coupon. Points are scored depending on the result of each match as follows. If the home team wins, the participant scores 1. If the away team wins, they score 1.5. If a match is a draw, they score 3. Which of the following total scores for the 4 matches is not possible? Okay, so this is really simple. You've got 4 matches, and they can be a combination of these numbers. Let's see which of these cannot be a combination of these numbers. So 8.5. Can you make 8.5? Yeah, well, let's say we did 3, 3, 1. That would take us to 7. And then 1.5, that would take us to 8.5. Okay, what about B? Well, we could do 3, 3, 1.5, and 1.5. So yeah, that's possible. C, we could do 3, 3. That takes us to 6. Then we need to get 3.5 more. If we do another 3, we get to 9, but then we're going over. What if we did 1.5, that would take us to 7.5. We'd need 2 more. It looks like this isn't possible, but let's have a look at the others. D, to get to 10, yeah, this is really easy. Just do 9 plus 1, and 10.5, yeah, you just make that a 1.5. So the answer is C. Which of the following is the best statement of the flaw in the argument above? Some recent films have been very expensive to make, but have not been the big box office hits that would have justified their expense. At the same time, there have been films made very cheaply which have been received with huge critical and popular acclaim. Indeed, some directors who have made successful low-budget films have gone on to make unsuccessful but expensive films. It is obvious then that if directors want to make popular films, they should stick to low budget. Okay, so the conclusion is, if directors want to make popular films, they should stick to low budgets. This is clearly an erroneous conclusion because it's based on this idea that sometimes expensive films aren't very successful, and sometimes cheap films are successful, and sometimes some people who make successful cheap films then go on to make unsuccessful expensive films. These are correlations. There's not enough evidence to support causation here at all. So let's have a look. A, critics are often wrong in their predictions about the popularity of films. That's just irrelevant. B, the cost of making a film is normally greater than its original budget. Irrelevant. C, the cost of a film need not be the factor that determines its popularity. Yeah, so this is suggesting that there may be some third factor that is more determining that this correlation does not imply the necessary causation. D, the popularity of a film would justify a high level of expense in making it. Yeah, that's true, but that's not the flaw. E, the public does not necessarily know whether a film has been expensive or cheap to make. Again, irrelevant. It seems to get to this idea that maybe the reason that these films are popular is because they have low budgets, but there's not enough reason in the paragraph to support that. Which of the following can be drawn as a conclusion from the above paragraph? It is clear that the world is getting warmer. The only thing that could slow down this process of global warming and avert ecological disaster would be an immediate switch to green technologies. If global warming continues at the present rate, some species will be unable to live in the warmer conditions. They will need to move to cooler places than they now occupy, for example closer to the poles or higher up mountains. Not all of these species will be able to reach cooler climates because of the long distance they would have to travel. Some of those that could move would end up in overcrowded habitats, which would make successful breeding impossible. So what it's saying is that Inevitably, global warming is going to happen unless we do an immediate switch to green technologies. If global warming continues at the present rate, some animals are going to need to move to cooler areas, but they're going to be unable to reach those cooler areas, and even if they do reach those cooler areas, they may be overcrowded, which makes successful breeding impossible. So what conclusion can we draw? Well, it seems to be that some of these species are not going to survive, or they're going to have great difficulty in surviving. A, most species require cool habitats for successful breeding. That's not a conclusion that we can draw, and there's actually not sufficient reason to believe that. B, many species will be able to adapt to living in warmer climates. So this is suggesting that many species will not be able to adapt to live in warmer climates. It's discussing those that are going to be unable to reach the necessary cooler climates or are going to find overcrowding wherever they end up. C, endangered species will survive if we switch to green technologies. No, we can't conclude that. It's saying that the only way we can avert this is by switching to green technologies, but there's no guarantee that these endangered species will survive. There might be other ways that we harm them, or the damage may have already got too strong. It is not possible to avert the ecological disaster caused by global warming. This seems to be a conclusion from the passage, right? If we don't switch to green technologies, we're going to have ecological disaster. But it does suggest that there is a possible way out, switch to green technologies. So this does not look like it's going to be the conclusion. And E, unless we switch immediately to green technologies, some species will not survive. I think this is a very reasonable conclusion. It's saying, unless we make this switch, we're going to have this global warming, and at least some species are not going to be able to survive that. Which of the following is an assumption underlying the above argument? Cannabis smoking is widespread even though it is illegal. It is also more dangerous to health than most people realise. If we want to reduce the use of cannabis, it should be legalised. People will not turn away from dangerous habits unless they are fully aware of the damage these habits can cause. We should have learnt this lesson from the example of tobacco smoking, which has declined dramatically because people have seen that it results in deaths from lung cancer. The key assumption here is that people are not experiencing the dangers of cannabis smoking sufficiently currently as a result of it being illegal. What you might think instead is that if it's illegal and people are using it anyway, that the people that use it anyway are still going to experience those negative effects and are still going to supposedly learn their lesson. But let's have a look at the options. A, people who still smoke cannabis are unaware that it can affect their health. This looks like a potential assumption. B, unless cannabis smoking is legalised, its dangers will not be widely known. Yes, this looks a much clearer, necessary assumption. C, if tobacco smoking has been illegal, it would have been less widespread. No. D, there's been insufficient research on the damage caused by cannabis smoking. It's not about research, it's about individuals learning it through their own activities. E, cannabis users are motivated by the fact they're engaging in illegal activity. No, that's irrelevant. It doesn't talk about what their motivations are. So why is it not A? People who still smoke tobacco are unaware that it can affect their health. That's not necessary for the conclusion to be true. It can be the case that those who still smoke tobacco are aware that it affects their health, but don't care enough. But what they're saying is that there is a sufficient number of people, a dramatic number of people, who have learned the lesson from its affecting their health and therefore have stopped smoking. So it doesn't have to be the case that everybody who smokes tobacco is aware that it affects their health in order for the conclusion to be true. Who won the £50? To encourage themselves to lose weight, Alma, Bridget, Cara, Danny and Evelyn each put £10 into a pot. They weighed themselves when they began and again at the end of each week. The one who had lost most weight after 4 weeks won the £50. The following chart shows their progress. Oh, so this seems really simple. You just look at what the greatest difference is between the beginning and the end, and whoever has the greatest difference won. So here you've got a loss of 7 kg, here 5 kg, here 6 kg, here 6.5 kg, and here 8 kg. So the answer is E, Evelyn. Now, an easy way you might waste time here is by thinking that who lost most weight overall, as in they could put it back on during the time and then lose it again, but that's not what it's saying. It's who lost most weight after 4 weeks, so net. Which of the following bar charts represents the distribution of the length of the reigns of these kings? Below is a list of the averaging and the fastest kings of England and the dates of their reigns. Okay, so what we want to do is quickly calculate which are in each range of years, and then we can figure out which of these charts are showing it correctly. But because we're doing it in the ranges, we don't have to necessarily calculate very accurately. So 0 to 15, 16 to 30, 31 to 45, and then 45 plus, essentially, 46 plus. So this is 54, so this is 35. So this is this one. 89, so this is 10. This is going to be 17. This is going to be 20, 52, 56, which is, of course, this one. This is going to be 28 plus 7, 35. This is going to be 20. This is going to be 50. And this is going to be 22. So this is this one. Okay. So this is 1, 3, 2, 2. 1, 3, no. What? No. 1, 3, 2, no. 1, 3. No. 1, 3, 2, 2. Yes, the answer is E. Which one of the following graphs best represents the driver's distance from home throughout his journey? A man drives off from his house and travels through the village at a constant speed. As he leaves the village behind, his speed increases to a new constant value which he maintains until he reaches a steep hill which slows him down. At the top of the hill, his driver stops for a few minutes to admire the view. He realises that he's left his picnic basket at home, and so drives rapidly back along his route to collect it. Okay, so we're looking at distance and time. What do we know? So he's travelling from his house to the village at a constant speed. As he leaves the village behind to an out of the village, we're assuming he's still going away from his house. I think that's fair. It's increasing to a new constant, so it's got steeper. Maybe if I make this one a little bit shallower, it'll be easier. There you go. Which he maintains until he reaches a steep hill which slows him down, but he's still going away from the house. At the top of the hill, he stops for a few minutes to admire the view, so that's going to be at some time when his distance away from the house is staying the same. He realises that he's left his picnic basket at home, and so drives rapidly back along his route to collect it. Okay, so it's going to be similar, except of course when you're going steep hill, that makes you slow when you go up, but fast when you go down, and so that's going to be faster. And then part between the hill and the village is probably going to be a similar speed, and then the part between the village and his house is probably going to be the similar speed as before as well. So it looks something like this. Let's have a look at what has that. Yeah, this is right. Steeper, shallower, flat. But no, he's coming back to the house, so no, this is not it. Oh, no, this should be steeper, not shallower. No, this suggests that he's staying in the same place. Steeper, shallower, flat, fast down the hill, and then mirroring pretty much. It looks like this is the answer. This one, steeper, shallower, but he doesn't spend any time at the hill, so this is not it. The answer is D. Which of the following, if true, would most strengthen the above argument? If children are sitting in rows in a classroom, the teacher can have eye contact with all of them while she's explaining something to them. This is not always possible if they're sitting in groups around tables. Also, when they look up, instead of seeing the child opposite in a group and being tempted to talk, they see the teacher. So sitting in rows helps children to concentrate better on their work and should therefore be the standard arrangement in every school classroom. So it's comparing sitting in rows and sitting in groups. If you sit in rows, the teacher can have eye contact with all of them, and they're less tempted to talk to one another because they can't see each other directly. And so it helps them concentrate better, and it should be the standard arrangement. This is the conclusion, should be the standard arrangement. Okay, what's going to strengthen that? Well, A, rows of desks take up more classroom space than tables. No, that would weaken that. That would suggest that there's potential negative from having the rows instead of the tables. B, some children are easily distracted whenever they sit in rows or in groups. No, this is, if they're going to be easily distracted either way, then that suggests that it doesn't really matter what the seating plan is, which would undermine the argument, or, it's talking about a subset of children that we shouldn't be worried about. Maybe we should be worried about the other children whose distraction levels are going to be affected. C, sitting in groups of between 4 and 7 makes discussion work easier. So this is going to weaken the argument. It gives you another reason to think that actually groups is better. D, traditionalists argue that teaching the whole class in rows is best. This isn't particularly strengthening the argument just because somebody has a particular point of view. It doesn't give you any logical reason to support that view. We don't know why we should support the traditionalists as a credible source of information, so the answer is not D. E, if desks are arranged in rows, children can all see visual aids more easily. Yes, this is another reason to think the children can concentrate better and that they would be better off by learning in rows. Which of the following statements is the flaw in the argument above? There are more police officers than ever before in the history of this country. We have more police officers and more community support officers. This is why last week crime was down. Crime is down 30%. We're going from correlation to causation. There's not enough reason to support the view that just because there's more police officers, that's the factor which is leading, in last week, crime to go down. It's also a very, very small period of time to make an assessment of it about. A, community support officers don't have the same powers as police officers. That is not a reasoning flaw. B, crime levels can be measured in different ways. Yeah, that's true. But this particular way of measuring crime suggests that it's fallen. C, crime could have fallen if there had been no increase in policing. So this is key. This is suggesting there may be other factors involved, that it might not be the result of the new police officers. D, the fact that crime is down last week does not mean it will stay down. This is true, but the passage isn't saying that it's going to stay down. It's just saying that it was down last week, and the reason for that was because of the new police officers and the community support officers. E, having more police officers may mean more crime is being detected. Well, it's suggesting that more crime is not being detected because crime is going down. So the answer is C. Which one of the following best expresses the conclusion of the passage above? The differences between human beings are sometimes more striking than the similarities. There is a minority of people who, driven by a competitive urge to be the best or the first, undertake ambitious expeditions involving severe physical deprivations, high risk of fatality, and extreme isolation. Compare these people to the majority who prefer an easy, risk-free life of comfort, and we can see that one human being can be as different from another in their behaviour as two different species of animal. Any attempt to form general rules about human behaviour needs to bear this variation in mind. Okay, so it's saying there's very large differences between people because there's a minority of people who are very, very different from the majority, and so we should be careful when making general rules about human behaviour. We should recognise that variation. Okay, what kind of conclusion could we get from that? Members of the human race can be as different in their behaviour as two separate species of animal. This is a conclusion from the passage, but it's actually arguing for a specific course of action. It's arguing for caution when you're making assessments about general rules of human behaviour. So this is not getting to the final stage. B, humans who take risk in the interest of achieving an unusual feature, untypical. No, this is the reason it has for getting to the conclusion that it does, that there's significant variation. And so therefore, we need to bear that in mind. C, variation in human behaviour makes it difficult to generalise. So I think this is the key conclusion. It's advocating for us to be careful in generalising about human behaviour because of this variation. D, differences between people can be more striking than similarities. No, this is just sort of a setup introduction statement. It doesn't actually form the main conclusion. E, human beings are superior to all other animals. Irrelevant. By how much per kilogram is costless offer better value for money than Save More's? Jars of Best Calf coffee weighing 200 grams are normally £2.50 at Costless and Save More, but both supermarkets have a special offer this week. Costless Best Calf is 80p off, and then Save More Best Calf is 25% extra free. Okay, how much per kilogram is Costless offer better value for money than Save More's? Very simple. So for 200 grams, you're going to have to pay £2.50 minus the 80p, which is of course £1.70, and that's for 200 grams. And for this one, well, you pay £2.50, you get an extra 25%. 25% of 200 is 50. So for £2.50, you get 250 grams. And so per kilogram, so if you wanted a kilogram, that would be 4 times that. That's going to be 10 quid. If you wanted a kilogram, it's going to be 5 times that. So 5 times £1.70 is 17 times 5 is going to be £8.50. This is £1.50 cheaper than that. What is the minimum number of countries needed to make up at least 50% of the total land area? Okay, the table shows the areas of the countries of the European Union. Okay, so first of all we need to figure out what is the total land area. Oh wait, no we don't, because we have the percentages. Okay, so we can get to 50% by ignoring this column completely, as well as this column. Okay, and the minimum number of countries is obviously going to be made up of the countries with the greatest percentages, so let's find the greatest percentages and add those up and stop adding until we get to 50. Okay, so highest is 14.60. Okay, second highest is 11.40, which of course takes us to a running total of 26. Okay, next highest is 1020, I think. Yeah. 1020, which takes us to 3620. Okay. Next highest is 810, which takes us to 4430. Next highest is 760, right? Yeah. Which takes us over the line, and it doesn't really matter by how much, but it's 5190. And so now, how many countries is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries. So the answer is A. Which one of the following diagrams is not a possible view when we see from the left-hand side? There are 7 books on my shelf which are of various sizes. When I look at them straight on, I see the following picture. I now look at them from the left-hand end in the direction of the arrow. Okay, so which ones are not possible? So we've got to look at A, okay. So this book is this book here. Can be this book here. Well, it has to be because it's going to be larger than this one. And then this book's got to be present as well. That's here. Okay. this book, so this one is this one here, sorry, and then this book, maybe this one here. Of course, they could be the other way around. This one is hidden from view, so you don't have to worry about that one. And then this one, the taller one here, could be the blue now. And this one hidden from view, so that's fine. Yeah, A is possible. Okay, let's have a look for B. So for B, you've got this one here, this one here. This one here is this one here. Let's use different colours. This one here is this one here. This one could be poking out here, or must be poking out here. And then this one could be hidden from view. This one is this one here. And then this one is hidden from view. So yeah, B is possible. C, this one is this one here. Here is here. And then, well, where's this one? This one is nowhere to be found. Okay, let's say maybe it's this one. But then, where's this one? So it is, the answer is C, it can't be C. And because it's taking too long, I think we should move on. Which of the following is a conclusion that can be reliably drawn from the above reasoning? Similar effects have similar causes. The problem is deciding when one set of effects sufficiently resembles another to infer a similar cause. You say the universe resembles a man-made object like a house, so its cause must also be similar, an intelligent designer resembling human beings. But is the universe so like a house? It seems to resemble an animal or vegetable just as closely. So why should its origin not lie in reproduction or some vegetative process? The universe contains many causes, many classes of effects and objects, all with their different causes. There seems to be no compelling reason for concluding that the universe as a whole resembles one of these classes of objects or effects more closely than another. So it's getting to the idea that we're just very unclear about what the cause of the universe is, and that we can't gain clarity on what the cause of the universe is based on an analogy, because you could just analogize it with so many different objects which have all sorts of different causes. Okay, A, the universe bears no resemblance to a man-made object. No, it does suggest that there is a resemblance, but it's not the only thing it resembles. B, the inference that the universe and man-made objects have similar causes is not justified. This could be it, because it's saying that we can't jump to the conclusion that the universe and man-made objects have similar causes on the basis of their similarity. C, the word resembles a vegetable more closely than a house. No, it doesn't say that. It says that it resembles both, and not necessarily one more than the other. D, the universe is not the result of intelligent design. No, it's not. That's quite a strong conclusion. It could be the result of intelligent design. It's just saying we can't make that an inference on the basis of its similarity with a house. E, the most likely origin of the universe is a reproductive process. Similarly, you can't make that conclusion. So the answer is B. This inference is too strong on the similarity of object. Which of the following is an implicit underlying assumption that is made by the above argument? At first glance, there is no phenomenon creepier than crop circles, huge geometric designs that appear in fields overnight, seemingly without cause, explanation, or reason. UFO enthusiasts are quick to supply all three by attributing the pattern to alien visitors seeking to communicate with humans, using laser beams or other advanced technology to flatten the crops. These fanciful claims can fortunately be dismissed thanks to two quite mundane observations. Firstly, ordinary Earth-born individuals have repeatedly demonstrated how to produce the effects with nothing more elaborate than a rope and a plank. Secondly, there is clear parallel for the phenomenon in the form of urban graffiti. Sneaking into fields to make crop circles is simply a rural variation of a widespread and well-documented human urge. Okay, so what is the conclusion? Is that we can dismiss that these designs have been made by UFOs, that they are made by humans. What is the assumptions that it's requiring for that? Well, A, where two explanations complete, we should accept the more ordinary one. Yeah, so I think this is the key assumption, because it's saying that both are possible explanations, and it's suggesting that we should accept the second over the first, and there's not actually enough reason to do so, right? Is there some other premise that's required in order to say that we should accept the second set of explanations over the first? And one such premise would be that it's more ordinary and that we should accept more ordinary explanations. There is nothing difficult or technical about producing crop circles. It's not saying that that's the case. Even if it was difficult and technical, they're just saying that it's possible by humans that are born on Earth. C, alien visitors would not try to communicate with humans by flattening crops. They're not saying that at all. A good way to test if these statements are assumptions is if they were true, would the conclusion then be invalid? And let's say alien visitors did want to communicate with humans by flattening crops, then it can still be valid that these crop circles weren't made by alien visitors. D, no visits from intelligent aliens have as yet been documented. That's not required again for the conclusion to be true. There may be many visits from intelligent aliens, but they're not the ones making crop circles. E, the appearance overnight of huge geometric designs is creepy if it cannot be explained. That is not an assumption at all. The answer is A. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the above argument? When you install a burglar alarm in your home, you do so presumably because the cost of the alarm is less than the expected benefits. The cost of a burglary, if one occurs, is likely to be much bigger than the cost of fitting an alarm. A clearly visible box on an outside wall of an alarmed house alerts and discourages potential thieves. Because your house is less likely to be burgled, your neighbour's house will be more vulnerable. Therefore, while there may be little impact on overall crime levels, expensive security devices reduce crimes against those with the devices, but increase crimes against those without. Okay, this is a very strong conclusion. This is saying that expensive security devices reduce the crime for you, but increase the crime for those that are not you, because those that don't have these boxes are going to end up having the thefts that were not happening to the people with the boxes. A, for similar houses, a high percentage of those without intruder alarms are burgled than those with alarms. No, that was to support the above argument. That would give you data to support the conclusion. As the percentage of houses with intruder alarms increased from 40 to 90%, house burglary rates fell by 60%, and there was a rise in street muggings of 100%. No, because this fall in burglary rates could have been entirely amongst those with the security devices, and so it may be the case that the conclusion is true, that for those individuals, crime was reduced and crime went up by a smaller proportion for those without. C, burglars perceive an alarm as a signal that there are items well worth stealing in a house, with no alarm indicates less valuable contents. So this would weaken the argument. This would suggest that actually expensive security devices are going to increase the rate of crime against you and decrease the rate of crime against those without, because they're going to give a signal about whether it's worth committing this crime against you. D, only 60% of houses with alarms set the alarm every day. It's irrelevant because it has a signalling effect, it's claiming. E, burglars know that 25% of all visible alarm boxes are fakes but cannot tell the fakes from the genuine. No, because if they can't tell the fake from the genuine, then it doesn't make any difference to their behaviour. Answer is C. In what year will the next date occur for which all 8 digits are different? Dates may be written in 8-digit format. For instance, 19th January 2005 may be written 1901 2005. Let's try each of the options. So, let's try 1901 2013. Well, if this is the case, then we can't have 0 or 1. Well, there's no month that doesn't have either 0 or 1, so it cannot be 2013. Let's try 2134. Okay, well this has to be a 0, and we can have, say, month 5, and then we can have, well, we can't have any date here because a date that begins with 0 we can't have a date that begins with 1, we can't have a date that begins with 2, or a date that begins with 3. Okay, what about 2145? Well, what month can we have? It's going to have to be a month that begins with 0, and let's say it's 06. Can we have, say, 30? No. Can we have 31? No. We can't have anything in the 20s. Can we have anything in the 10s? No. Can we have anything in the 0s? No. So that's not also an option. Okay, what about 2, 3, 4, 5? This looks like it's probably going to be possible, because in the month, let's say we can have month 10. Then what date can we have? Well, we can't have a date that begins in the noughts, in the 10s, the 20s, or the 30s. Okay, let's change the month. Let's say it's month 9. Then let's say we can have 16 here. So that works. The answer is D. Which of the following is not a possible side view of the logo? This is the view from above of the large 3D logo situated in the forecourt of the head office of this firm. It was sculpted from a single cube of marble and has a uniform cross-section from top to bottom. Which of the following is not a possible side view of the logo? Okay. Side being, it can be from any of the sides, right? So let's see, this one, A. Well, A looks like it's possible from this side. You can imagine that it would look like this, with each of these lines being these. Okay, so A is possible. What about B? Well, B could be, it couldn't be this side, because this would look like this. Right? Which in fact looks the same as C, so we know C is possible. And then we can't be this side, because this would just look like this, which is in fact E, so we know E is possible. And it can't be the top, because the top would just look like this, which is in fact D. So if you, if you rotate D, it's the same as D, so we know it's not D. The answer is B. How much will he need to add to his savings when he needs to buy his new car? The table below from a newspaper shows how much money you will need at various points in the future to buy items costing $1,000 today, depending on the annual rate of inflation. Rao has just bought a new car for $10,000. He expects this car to last him 8 years. When he will buy another equivalent model, he puts $10,000 into a bank account ready to pay for the next car. The price of cars rises with inflation of 8%, and his savings only earn interest of 6%. How much will he need to add to his savings when he needs to buy his new car? So how much will he have in his savings? Well, he's put $10,000 in his savings, and it's going to increase at a rate of 6%. So average yearly rate of inflation, it's going to be 8 years. So after 8 years, his money will be worth 159,040. We just multiply it by 10 to get 10,000. But the car is going to cost him this much. So the difference between them is 18510 minus 15940. The answer is B. Which one of the following best describes the flaw in the above argument? It would be a good idea if the police force was separated in two divisions, one for proper policing and the other for road traffic. The second division could be combined with traffic wardens, as basically they're doing a similar job, obtaining money from road users. Perhaps then there'd be a proper focus put on catching criminals and protecting the law-abiding public, and we would have a police force doing the job they were actually intended to do. So it's saying we should cut the police in two, one for proper policing and the other for road traffic, with road traffic police working with the traffic wardens or working in the same way as traffic wardens. And it's making this jump then that this is somehow going to improve outcomes in catching criminals and protecting the law-abiding public. There seems to be an assumption present here that if you cut them up, that the one that's focused on proper policing is going to be able to do its job better, which maybe it's able to do because it's less distracted or something. But the other key assumption here is that these can be cleanly cut and that there's not an overlap between these two jobs, which would suggest that they need to be working together. A, it overlooks the fact that many traffic offences are both criminal and a serious danger to the public. Yes, exactly. So it's saying that, protecting citizens and upholding law and order is proper policing, whereas road traffic is something else. But actually, road traffic may be about protecting citizens and upholding law and order. B, it rests on the false assumption that the police do not protect citizens or catch criminals. No, it doesn't. C, it ignores the fact that traffic wardens and the police have different duties and different powers. It's not saying that at all. Even if they have different duties and powers, it can recognise that and still say that they have the similar job in purpose, obtaining money from road users, and so that those powers and duties can be worked out. D, it wrongly equates protecting citizens with catching criminals. No, it makes these actually separate, catching criminals and protecting citizens. E, it implies that the police once did the job they were supposed to do. It actually doesn't ever talk about how it was done in the past or if it was done better, or imply that it was done better. Which of the following most closely parallels the reasoning in the argument? If you practice playing a musical instrument, your playing will get better. I have not practiced playing the piano, so my playing has not got better. I have an exam in 2 months' time, so I must practice every day if I want to do well. If you practice playing an instrument, A, you will get better at playing. B, I have not A, so B has not happened for me. I have an exam in 2 months' time. I have C, so I need A if I want to be. B here being a bit of a stretch because we're equating do well and get better, but it's a similar idea. Okay, let's look at the options. If you practice playing the cello, your playing will get better, so yeah. If you A, you will B. Dawn has not practiced much. Dawn has not A, but her playing has got better. No, this is not the same. This is saying that her playing has got better, whereas this person has not done the work and not got the result. B, if you work hard at a sport, you will become better. If you A, then you will B. I have not worked hard at my trampolining. I have not A, so I have not B. Yeah, this looks the same. There's a competition next month, so I must work hard if I want to do well. Yes, this is exactly it. C, if you work hard at running, you get faster. If you A, you will B. I have worked hard. No, this person has not worked hard. D, people who practice a craft get better at that craft. People who A, get B. All master craftsmen and women have put long hours practicing their art. No, this is just going complete different direction. This is saying people who A get B. All people who B have done A. It is impossible to B without doing A. Just not the same at all. E, practice makes perfect. So A for B. I've practiced hard on my violin. No, this person has not practiced. The answer is B. Which of the following best illustrates the principle underlying the above argument? Legislation needed to prevent the abuse of genetic testing by insurance companies. New genetic tests may reveal how likely an individual is to suffer from certain debilitating or fatal conditions in later life. Without legislations, insurance companies might make such tests compulsory and make those at risk pay more for insurance. This would be unfair. We do not choose our genes, we are born with them. People should not be penalised for things over which they have no control. The principle quite clearly being we shouldn't be penalised for things that we do not have control over. Okay, let's see which of those is applying that principle. A, Kylie did not deliberately get her accounts wrong, but she should pay the fine anyway. She should make sure the accounts were right. So this is not the same principle. This would be you should be held accountable for your actions. Whereas this is talking about the counter of that. You should not be held accountable. You should not be punished for your inact where you didn't have the power to otherwise. B, some people have lost everything in the flood. Their insurance companies are responsible for their losses. Therefore, the government should not help out. This is, again, not the same. If it was saying some people have lost everything in the flood, they should not be penalised. It wasn't their fault, so therefore they shouldn't be penalised, or we should help them. That would be getting to a similar idea. C, Philip should not receive any help paying his debts. However sorry one may be for him, he knew in advance his business venture would be very risky. So he should be penalised, he did have control, but that's the counter. D, late payment normally incurs a fine, but Jamuna's payment was held up because postal workers were on strike, so she should not be made to pay the fine. Yes, she didn't have any control over the postal workers' strike, and she's being penalised for it. That's not right. So the answer is D. E, 3 people were not properly informed of possible financial losses when they joined the scheme. Their financial advisors should lose their professional licences. So the financial advisors were responsible. They should be penalised. No, that's not it. D. If I take the fastest route, what will be the time saving over the slowest route? Okay. As part of a journey, I must travel from Bowridge to Downland. I can choose either the motorway, known locally as the Road to Hell, or the old road, known as Buttercup Way. On the motorway, I average 60 miles per hour. On the old road, I average 40 miles per hour. I can change from one to the other at Clatterton when they cross. The distances by the two roads are as follows. Okay, so we want to go from here to here, and let's find out the fastest and the slowest route and the times it takes them. So the slowest is going to take the longest time for both parts, and the fast route is going to take the shortest time for both parts. So let's see, for part 1, so 35 miles at 60 miles per hour. So we know that distance, speed times time, and we want to find out the time, so that's going to be distance over speed. So we've got 35 over 60 miles an hour, and so that's going to take them 35 minutes. Buttercup Way is 30 miles at 40 miles an hour, so this is 30 over 40, which times by 60 minutes. So that's 2, 3, this is going to be 15, 45 minutes, okay? And then for this part, 35, again at 60 miles an hour, so this is exactly the same 35 minutes, and this is 20 miles at 40 miles an hour, which is of course going to be half an hour, so 30 minutes. The fastest route would be to go here and then here, which is going to be 65 minutes, and the slowest route would be to go here and then here, which is going to be 80 minutes. And the difference between them is of course 15 minutes, so the answer is C. Which of the following shapes cannot be made as the overlap of two transparent squares? Various shapes may be made by overlapping two transparent squares, for example, dark shaded hexagons shown below. Okay, cool. So we can see what A might be. Maybe it's an important thing here being that these are squares, like this. And then the overlap is the grey, so A is possible. B, a little bit trickier. So let's say, here we have that. Here, right, of course, could be right angled. But then how are we going to get... The difficulty here is, of course, that with these shapes, you've got to be a 90-degree angle, but these are not 90-degree angles, and so it's hard to make this overlap. Let's have a look at the others and maybe do those because they'll be quicker. So C is very quick and easy to do. It's just like this. It's not C. D also looks relatively simple to do. Just do it like this. It's not D. And then E is very easy, right? Again, you just do it like this. No, it's not E. It looks like the answer is B. What was the change in the percentage of households with fewer than 3 people between 1971 and 1991? This table shows household size and group and change between 1961 and 1991. Okay, in 1971, what percentage of households had fewer than 3 people? So that means they had fewer than, so it's these two, and that is of course 50. So 50% of households had fewer than 3 people. And then in 1991, this is going to be 61, and so the difference is 11, D. Which of the following is the main conclusion of the above argument? Britain's property market is in the midst of a full-scale slump, with house prices falling at their fastest rate in 15 years, according to a new study. But why is there an assumption that continuing rises in house prices is a good thing? Why not see the fall in house prices as a welcome change? House prices as a percentage of income are grossly overpriced. Low interest rates and cheap mortgages have led to the property market, particularly in London, being overvalued. Surely this would make houses more affordable. First-time buyers will be happy beneficiaries of a housing slump. Others finding silver lining the gloom are those in rural communities for whom a house had seemed simply out of reach. So the main conclusion is going to be, let's see the fall in house prices as a welcome change. And the reasons for that are, number one, the house prices are grossly overpriced. Number two, it's going to make house prices more affordable. Number three, it's going to help first-time buyers. Number four, it's going to help those in rural communities. The options: A, low interest rates and creep mortgages have led to an overvaluing of the property market. No, that's a reason to support the main conclusion. B, it is always assumed that continual housing prices are a good thing. This is contextual information. It's saying that we shouldn't agree with this, although it's typically assumed to be the case. C, rural communities will no longer find buying a house out of reach. That's a reason to support seeing house prices falling as a welcome change. D, surely a slump in house prices will make buying a house more affordable. Another one of the reasons to support it. It's not the only reason. Another reason might be that they're overvalued. So it's not only that it's going to make it more affordable for certain people, but that you shouldn't have assets that are just wrongly priced in the market. E, we should view the fall in house prices as a good thing. Yes, this is it. Which of the following conclusions is best supported by the passage above? The average life expectancy in working class areas of London was significantly higher than in similar areas in other major cities in the first half of the 19th century. In London during this time, drinking tea had become part of daily life amongst the poor. The reason for this was a combination of availability and costs. Boats bringing tea to the country docked in London, and a certain amount was sold off directly to local markets. At this time, in the rest of the country, tea was regarded as a luxury consumed only by the better off. So what it's saying is that average life expectancy in the working class areas of London is significantly higher than other areas, and that tea is more accessible for these people, and they're drinking tea more frequently in the poor in London. And so what it's getting to is this idea that somehow there was a relationship between tea and this life expectancy, but we've got to be careful with how strong that conclusion is. Right now we only have a correlation. So A, the drinking of tea increases life expectancy. I don't think this is sufficiently supported by the passage. It seems to be suggesting that it may increase your life expectancy, but I don't think we're ready to say that it does, for sure. B, everyone ought to include tea in their daily diet. Not at all. It may increase your life expectancy, but also not be something you want to include in your daily diet for other reasons. C, there may be properties of tea which are beneficial to health. So this seems to be supported by the passage well. It seems to be suggesting that tea is increasing the life expectancy of these people. D, the growing popularity of tea leads to a decrease in the consumption of more harmful drinks such as gin. And E, for the poor, tea was substitute food. That's irrelevant. So both D and E are irrelevant. Just to clarify between A and C, A is a really attractive option here, but it's too strong a conclusion. If you read this passage, could you honestly go up to somebody else and say, assuming this passage is true, tea is going to increase your life expectancy? I think that's too strong a conclusion, but it does make you think that tea may have beneficial properties because there's a correlation. And correlation gives you reason to believe that something may be the case, not that it's definitely the case. Which one of the following is an assumption underlying the above argument? A recent study by a drugs company found that the amount of money spent on a specific pill used for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease in the UK showed wide regional variation. Alzheimer's is a condition associated with the ageing process. In some areas, the expenditure was as low as £1 per head of the population over 65, whereas in others it was as high as £10 per head. These pills are the most effective treatment for this condition that is currently available. Therefore, there is another example of postcode lottery, where the effectiveness of treatment for a health condition will depend on where you live. So what this is saying is that you've got this pill which is used to treat Alzheimer's disease, and that a lot more spending is happening in certain parts of the population per head than in other parts of the population, and then it's coming to the conclusion of this is an example of unfairness, where you live could determine how effectively you're treated. That's assuming that Alzheimer's is equally likely to be prevalent amongst all the parts of the UK. I suppose it's also assuming that the treatment is equally likely to be effective for all parts of the population across the UK, but that's probably a more reasonable assumption. The key assumption is that you've got similar rates of Alzheimer's across the whole UK, and it may be the case that certain areas of the UK simply have much higher rates of Alzheimer's, so that's why they've got much higher rates of spending per head. A, the pills are very successful in halting the progress of Alzheimer's disease. You don't have to assume that. If they have some success, that's still a reason to think that the treatment is being unfairly distributed. B, the drugs company that did the research doesn't have a vested interest in selling the pills. Yeah, I mean, that is an assumption that the research is reliable, but I don't think we have to assume that they didn't have a vested interest in selling the pills to assume that the research is reliable. C, there were no regional variations in the incidence of Alzheimer's in the 65 plus age group. This is exactly it. D, there are no regional variations in the number of people in the 65 plus age group. And E, it is not possible to develop Alzheimer's disease below the age of 65. For clarity here, so for D, there were no regional variations in the number of people in the 65 plus age group. Because we're looking at the study only in populations over 65, there could be regional variations, but we're only looking at this group, so it doesn't matter about those regional variations. There's still inequality in the distribution of treatment amongst that age category. E, it is not possible to develop Alzheimer's disease below the age of 65. It may be possible to develop it below the age of 65, but we're talking about those above the age of 65 having this inequality in access to treatment. It doesn't have to be necessarily the case for everyone to say that there is some inequality. All the teams in a local football league have now played each other once this season. Below is the current league table. What was the result of the match between United and County? So, we know there's going to be a match between each of the players, so in this question it would be useful to write down all of the matches that are going to happen. So we've got Rovers v United, Rovers versus County, Rovers versus Wanderers, Rovers versus City. Then we've got United versus County, United versus Wanderers, United versus City, County versus Wanderers, County versus City, and then we can put down here Wanderers versus City. Now, you notice here I've made sure not to double count any matches, and that's why it has this nice triangle structure. Okay, so let's see what we know. We know first of all that Rovers won all of their matches. So we can put in here a little W next to all of these, and that means whoever they played against lost. Okay, what do we know next? Well, we know that this is pretty helpful, right? So we know that City lost 3 of their matches and they drew 1. And is it clear who they drew against? So they could have drawn against County or against United, but we know that they lost against Wanderers as well. So City versus Wanderers, winner, and we have loser, because Wanderers have never had a draw. And then one of these matches, City's drew, and the other they lost. Okay, what else do we know? We know that the Wanderers lost 3 of their matches and they won 1. We've identified their win, which means they must have lost these ones. Okay, so there's 3 matches we don't know anything about still. Let's have a look at United. So United, we knew they won 2, so we've identified one of their wins. They lost 1, so we've done to 1 loss. And then for the other 2 matches, which are here and here, they drew 1 and they won the other. Okay, well let's have a look at County and City then. County, they win 1, which we've got here. They lose 1, which we've got here. And then they draw all the other 2. So they must have drawn this one, and they must have drawn this one. And just for completion then, what happened to United versus City? Well, United versus City, United has won 1, but it needs to win 2, so this one must be a win and this must be a loss. Okay, so what do we know? The match that we're interested in is this one, United versus County. We know there has to be a draw, so immediately it can't be B, it can't be C, and it can't be E. Okay, was it a draw of 0-0 or 1-1? Well, let's look at what we know about United. We know United won 2 of their matches, and it scored 2 goals. Well, to win a match you have to score at least 1 goal, and so in each of those matches it must have scored 1 goal each. That means that there's no goals left for it to score, so it can't have scored any matches in this draw match. It must have scored no goals in that draw match. So the answer must be A. And that's the answer. Which one of the following moves ensures that she can win at her next move? In a modified form of a popular game, each of 2 players at any turn may put either 0 or X as she chooses in any blank square of a 3x3 grids. She wins if she thereby completes a line of 3 identical symbols. The player is faced with this situation. So basically, it's noughts and crosses, but you can be either noughts or crosses depending on what you want to do. Okay, so if she does this, then let's say she does A, then the other player can do, if the other player does that, then they can do that. If the other player does this, then they can do that. What if the other player does this though? Well, then she can't win. So it's not A. Let's say the other player does this. Well, you can't win immediately in your next move. Let's say the other player does that. You can immediately win your next move. Let's say the other player does that. You can immediately win your next move. Okay, let's say the other player does that. Looks like, yeah, you can easily win. Okay, let's have a look at the other options. It looks like the answer is probably going to be C. D, the other player can do that, and then, yeah, I mean, you don't win in your next move. There's nothing you can do to win. E, let's say the other player does that. There's nothing you can do to immediately win, so the answer is C. How many of the smokers that were given the nicotine tablets can the research conclude had quit due to taking the tablets? The following table shows the result of a test on smokers trying to quit. Of 240 people, half were given nicotine and the other half were given a placebo. The researchers assume that of the smokers given nicotine tablets, the same proportion would have quit without using them as would have quit using the placebo. Okay, so let's find out what proportion quit using the placebo and what proportion quit using nicotine, and then how much higher the latter is from the former. So what proportion quit with the placebo? 24 over 120. Okay, that's with placebo. And then quit with the nicotine, 56 over 120. The difference is going to be 32 over 120. So the answer is B. Which of the following, if true, would strengthen this argument? In a high-speed police chase, police drivers sometimes lose sight of the car they're chasing, but that's no reason to give up. All they have to do is take the first left, and then the first left again. Pursued drivers are likely to keep taking turns as they come up, as this seems instinctively like the best way to lose someone who's following them. They're not going to turn right, as this involves waiting and checking for oncoming traffic. Therefore, take a couple of left turns, and the police car will soon have their criminal in sight once again. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, A. Car chases tend to end with the pursued driver losing control of their vehicle. That isn't going to strengthen the argument because if they're losing control, then you can't follow so logically what they're going to do. B. Drivers in TV car chases tend to turn left rather than right when pursued. I don't think TV car chases can be taken as a reliable indication of real life. C. Police drivers are usually able to sustain faster average speed over a length of time than other drivers. This would suggest that they're going to catch up, so that would strengthen the argument. D. Police drivers usually request overhead assistance from a helicopter. That's just irrelevant. E. 2 left turns might take the criminal where they want to be going. Again, irrelevant. So the answer is C. Which of the following is the best statement of the flaw in the above argument? The museum has decided to spend money in the hope of staying profitable and therefore remaining open. It has opened an expensive new front hall, which is very big and well planned and would undoubtedly impress new visitors. For serious students, however, it has nothing to offer that was not there before. All the scholars who want to do so already use the museum. They will continue to come, however artistic the displays may or may not be. So it was a waste to spend so much money on appearances. The money should be spent on improving conditions for those who come to study. The flaw in this might be that you want to increase the number of visitors, and increasing the number of visitors might be the way to get more money and remain profitable, rather than improving facilities for existing visitors who are already paying and are going to continue paying. Unless it's the case that there's other ways of making money from these visitors within the museum, and that if they improve the conditions, they're more likely to pay for those other things. But those are lots of jumps there that are not clear at all. So the flaw here is to assume that you want to improve conditions for current visitors who are going to continue coming when there's no clear reason to think that that's going to increase your revenue. A. The museum cannot be sure that new visitors will be attracted by its front new hall. No. B. There is no evidence that visitors to the museum are interested in the conditions in which the contents are displayed. No. C. If scholars will continue to come anyway, the museum will not make more money by improving their conditions. Exactly. D. There is no contact or sympathy between serious scholars and members of the public in museums. Strange, and no. E. It is regular users and not potential new visitors to the museum who deserve to be rewarded. It's not about dessert, it's about how to make money. Which of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the above argument? England is set to become the most crowded country in Europe as its population grows by a third over the next 50 years, according to official projections. There are currently some 50 million people in England, but in 50 years that could hit 68 million, 1,349 for every square mile. Opposition political parties who have obtained the data from the Office of National Statistics demanded restrictions on migration levels. The opposition spokeswoman for immigration said, "This demonstrates that the real pressure public services are being put under as a result of the failed immigration policy of the present government, with the electorate increasingly recognising. Continued unrestricted population growth will lead to extremist political parties benefiting at the ballot box." Okay, so the main conclusion here is that continued unrestricted population growth is going to lead to extremist political parties succeeding at the ballot box or benefiting at the ballot box. And the reasons it gives to support that are opposition parties are demanding these restrictions, and if we can take this spokesperson to be accurate, that public services are being put under a lot of pressure, and the electorate are recognising that. Okay, so A, extremist parties will gain political capital from the growth in population. Yes, exactly. Extremist parties will gain political capital from the growth in population. I think, I would like it was more specific that the growth in population driven by immigration, but it's getting to the same idea, and it says there, so it's specifically discussing this growth in population. B, England is set to become the most crowded country in Europe over the next 50 years. That is not the main conclusion. That's a reason to support the main conclusion that this is going to benefit extremist political parties. C, public services will come under increasing pressure as a result of immigration policy. Again, a reason to support the main conclusion. D, the electorate are dissatisfied. Again, a reason to support the conclusion. And E, opposition parties believe immigration is the sole reason for the projected rise in population in England. Again, a reason to support the main conclusion. Which one of the following price scales could he have used for mini, regular and large pizzas? When my father ran a pizza shop, he sold pizzas for a fixed amount plus an amount proportional to the ingredients used. A regular pizza uses twice the ingredients of a mini one, and a large pizza twice those of a regular one. So what we know is for every pizza, there's sort of a fixed amount plus a variable amount. For the regular, this fixed amount is going to be twice of the fixed amount for a mini. So this is going to be the mini, and then the large is going to be 3 times. So it's going to be twice that of the regular. So it's going to be 4v, just multiplying that by 2. So which one of the following price scales could you have used for mini, regular and large pizzas? So the difference here is v, the difference here is 2v. So the difference between the price of the large and the regular has to be twice the difference in price between the regular and the mini. So here we have a difference of 51p, and here a difference of 96p, so that's not double. Here a difference of £1, and here a difference of £1 again, not double. Here we have a difference of £1.10, and a difference of £1.10 again, so that's not going to be double. Here we have a difference of 30p, and here we have a difference of 40p, not double, which means it must be E, difference of £1, difference of £2. The answer is E. But how much did adding the extra item to my order reduce the total cost? I often order items from a mail order catalogue. The charges for post and packaging to be added to the order value are as follows. Just before sending off my latest order, I noticed that the current catalogue offers half price postage and packaging for orders of 8 or more items. Half price postage and packaging for orders of 8 or more. My order was for 7 items with an order value of £74.60. I could not find anything else I wanted, so I just added the cheapest item in the catalogue, priced at £1.25 to my order. By how much did adding the extra item to my order reduce the total cost? Okay, so let's find the old cost and let's find the new cost. So the old cost of the items was £74.60 plus the postage and packaging. So it was in this category, so it had £12, right? So we just add 12 to that, so it's now £86.60. Okay, and the new order value is £74.60 plus £1.25, which takes us to £75.85. Plus the postage and packaging, which is going to be in this category, but it's half price. So instead of £15, it's £7.50. Add £7 takes us to £82.85 plus 50p is £83.35. Okay, so how much is the overall saving? It's going to be £3.25, which is A. Which one of the following sets of information would be sufficient for him to be able to decide which of the two price structures would be least expensive? John wishes to have 500 copies of a brochure printed and is offered a choice of 2 price structures, an equal cost for each brochure printed, regardless of number. So we can think of this as 500V, an initial fixed cost followed by a lower cost than structure 1 for each brochure. So we can think of this as F plus 500A, where A is less than V. What this is essentially saying is you can pick one option where it's 500V and another option where you have to pay a fixed cost, but you're making a saving on each individual unit. And at a certain point of brochures, the saving per unit will be so significant that it's worth paying that fixed cost. And once we know what that number of brochures is, then actually we'll be able to answer this question. A, the number of brochures for which the total bill will be the same for both structure 1 and 2. Exactly. So this is telling us the point at which you're actually making a saving with option 2, because the saving you're making per unit adds up to a total saving that is greater than the initial fixed cost. But we can look at the other options as well. B, an example showing the cost of 500 brochures for structure 1 and 200 brochures using structure 2. Now, if you think of this, this will tell us pretty useless information. This will tell us what 500V is and what F plus 200A is. There's not much we can do with that. C, the cost per brochure using structure 1 and the initial cost using structure 2. So this would be really helpful, but we still need to know what A is in order to finish our equation, we would only know then F and V, but we wouldn't know how much the saving is per unit, so we wouldn't know at what point the saving makes up for the initial fixed cost. D, an example showing the cost of 200 brochures using structure 1 and 200 brochures using structure 2. Again, this won't allow us to identify the break point at which point we're making the saving. We won't be able to tell the difference between A and V and the size of F. E, the cost of 1 brochure using structure 1 and 2 brochures using structure 2. So this would tell us what V is, because in structure 1 we know that 1V is just going to be equal to V, but it won't tell us what A is, because we won't be able to differentiate, when we have F plus 2A, what F and A are from the total cost. So the answer is A. Which one of the following can be drawn as a conclusion from the above passage? Many people who live near to mobile phone masts are worried that radiation from these masts will damage their health. Mobile phones themselves have also been suspected of emitting dangerous levels of radiation, and a report recommended that children should be discouraged from making non-essential calls. Emission of radiation from the mast is much lower than that from a mobile phone. A few seconds making a phone call is comparable to 24 hours of exposure from a mast. Radiation from both these sources is below the international guidelines as to what is a dangerous level, but no one yet can be certain if these guidelines accurately reflect the level of risk. So the conclusion it seems to be coming with is we don't really know what's going on. We don't know the level of risk associated with using the phones or from the masts. The mast risk seems to be significantly lower from the phones though, because you have significantly less exposure from them. So let's look at the options. A, people who use mobile phones are putting their health at risk. I think this is a pretty extreme conclusion. We don't know that they're at risk, we just know that there's a potential risk. B, the international guidelines underestimate the risk to health from low levels of radiation. Now there's no reason to think that they're wrong about that, they could be overestimating. C, the health risk from living near a phone mast is lower than that from using a mobile phone. This is what seems to be indicated from the passage. We see that a few seconds making a phone call is comparable to 24 hours of exposure from a mast, so the phone call sounds significantly more dangerous. But let's have a look at the other options. D, people who live near mobile phone masts overestimate the risks to their health from these masts. There's no reason to think that people are excessively worried. They're worried that they will damage their health, but there's a potential risk that they will damage their health. We just don't know how big that risk is. E, if extensive use of mobile phones is not harmful to health, radiation from masts is unlikely to be a risk. Now this also looks like quite a tempting conclusion. I think we should go with E because it's a conditional and it's a much less strong conclusion. It says if this is the case, then it's unlikely to be a risk, whereas C is a much stronger conclusion, which maybe we don't have enough evidence to support. So I would go with E. And that's the right answer. Which of the following is an underlying assumption of the above argument? University education is not a matter of forcing through the largest number of graduates at the lowest possible short-term cost. This would not serve the needs of the current generation of students, and even from a narrow economic viewpoint, it would not promote economic prosperity in the long term. It is often a poor economic practice to skimp on the production costs of a product, even when you are only interested in the eventual monetary profit to be gained from it. But in any event, university education has wider purposes than merely the promotion of economic prosperity. So our assumption here seems to be that if you put more people in, the quality inevitably is going to decrease, and so it's not going to achieve the sort of wider purposes that we're looking for, and we're not going to be able to also have the high quality product that we're looking for that has the economic prosperity that we're looking for. So let's have a look at the options. A, the principal purpose of university education is to serve the needs of the present generation of students. No, it doesn't even make this assumption. It seems to suggest that it's about wider society as a whole. B, the principal purpose of university education is to promote the long-term economic prosperity of the community. No, it again refers to wider goals. So it's not making that conclusion at all. C, the more money the manufacturer spends on the production of a product, the greater the eventual profit is likely to be. I think that's too strong a conclusion. I don't think it's talking about profit necessarily. It's talking about wider social benefits. It's really saying the more money the manufacturer spends on the production of a product, the more likely the product is going to be high quality. D, policies of cost cutting are likely to reduce the extent to which university education will achieve its overall purpose. Yes, this is exactly it. Cost cutting will lead to a lower quality product. E, universities should be managed as to make a monetary profit, but they should also promote certain non-financial values. No, it's not even saying they should necessarily make a monetary profit. Which one of the following, if true, would most weaken the above argument? The preservation of first-class sections on trains is indefensible. This is not because it is socially divisive, which it is, nor because it is very expensive, which it also is, but because it inevitably leads to a relatively poorer service in standard-class sections of trains. Clearly, in order to attract first-class passengers, it is necessary to maintain certain levels of discomfort in those compartments, which cater to the great majority of travellers. There is, for example, a powerful disincentive to make more space generally available on trains, as one of the main inducements to travel first class is to escape overcrowding and be assured of a seat. Yet additional space would add significantly to the safety and comfort of most passengers. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the above argument? Let's have a look. So anything that actually indicates is in the interests of standard class passengers to have first class in the way that it is would weaken the passage, because this passage is about what is in the interests of standard class passengers. A. More people are now using first class sections on trains than ever before. No, irrelevant. B. The whole rail service benefits from the increased revenue generated by the high cost of first class tickets. So this would indicate that standard class are perhaps benefiting. C. On many trains, the first class section occupies only a small proportion of the total accommodation. Doesn't weaken the argument, because you could ask, well, why does it occupy any proportion? D. No one is excluded from travelling in the first class sections of trains, provided they're prepared to pay the higher fare. Yeah, it's a pretty big exclusion. E. Some people who travel in first class sections of trains would not use the trains if there were no first class sections. This, you could think of a second line to that being, and the revenue we use from those people enables the functioning of standard class, but that second line isn't there, so E is useless. It gives us B. Which one of the views below cannot be of this box? The piece of card shown below is folded to make a box with a triangle across section. So let's first draw a net of the box, and then let's see if each of them can be that net. So let's just imagine it like this. Okay, got this one here. Let's put this in red here. So let's say that's going upwards like that. And we know it's going to directly face onto the bottom here, this part here. Let's do the blue here. If this folds upwards, this rectangle is going to be up here at the top. Here, what's going to be on the back side? Well, the back side is going to face directly down like this. The grey shown in the yellow. And then for this bottom one here, how's that going to look? Well, let's say we spin this round. This side is going to be directly facing to this side, and this side is going to be directly facing this one. So we know that this triangle is going to look like this. So A, okay, an easy way to see this one is to imagine that you've got this side and flipping it downwards. Would this face into it in the right way? So if this is coming downwards, it's going to look like that. So this side is going to be on that back here. This part's going to be here, because it's going to face directly into this corner. And we know that this should always face this side. So this side has to be that, and this one has to be here. It's right next to it. And so yes, it's possible. A is possible. Let's try again with B. It's quite clear to see that B is possible because this is exactly here, so we're just imagining that we're flipping this. Just imagining that we're flipping this around. So that this is on top. And then this is always going to be facing into it. It's going to be facing like that. So B is possible. C. So we can imagine a similar thing here. We know that these meet in quite an obvious way. So we imagine that this is now flipped down, and so it's quite clear to see that this would be flip it down. This is going to be like this facing into it. So it's not going to be C. Okay, two left. D. D is another quite obvious one, because we can see that this one folds into this quite well, where if this were to just come down, this would sit like that. It would look like if you had to pull this side down onto it, it would look like this. This corner here is that greyed corner, so that's to look like that, and so D is possible. That leaves E. I won't show you how it's not possible, but you can imagine trying it in a couple of different ways, and you'll see that it isn't. So, for example, this looks like the one it's talking about, but it wouldn't be the right way around. What percentage of those taking Spanish are also taking French? Give your answer to the nearest 1% if necessary. At Marlin College, all 120 pupils in Year 11 take 2 languages at GCSE. The table below shows the number of pupils taking each language combination. So what percentage of those taking Spanish are also taking French? So, how many taking Spanish first of all, and then we can find out how many of those are also taking French. We've got these taking Spanish. So we've got 14 plus 9 is 23, plus 13 is 36, plus 4, so there's 40 taking Spanish. How many of those are also taking French? So we have, of the French, 14 are taking Spanish. So 14 over 40. So we know it's going to be over 28%, because 14 over 50 is 28%. But let's find it exactly. 14 over 40 times 100 is 5, 2. 1, 7. 7 times 5 is 35, so the answer is C. How many different routes does he have to choose from? Clockwise and anti-clockwise around the same triangle counts as one route only. The diagram below shows Morden Hall and the network of paths within the grounds. When the owner takes his dog for a walk, he always starts and finishes at the intersection outside the front door, and keeping to the paths, walks one complete triangular route. Okay, so essentially asking how many triangles are there, but the key thing to note is, because he's starting at Morden Hall, the triangle has to include this point here. So we can't have, for example, this as one triangle. Okay. So we've got the 5 most obvious ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we've got these right-angled ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we've got these ones. 1, 2, and so that brings us to a total of 11. D. Which one of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the argument? Although study leave in the run-up to exams is traditional and benefits well-motivated, organised students, recent thinking suggests that it is not the best way to improve results. Some students are required to do housework or help in the family business, rather than studying. Many others spend time playing computer games, watching daytime TV, or hanging around with friends instead of revising. Schools which provide in-school study areas with teacher supervision and a programme of booster revision sessions are getting more A stars and fewer Ds. It's time to ditch study leave. So it's quite clear, the main conclusion is time to ditch study leave, and it's giving you several reasons to believe that. Firstly, many people are not using the time in the way that you'd like them to, and secondly, schools which are providing the space for students to stay in school during that time are getting better grades. So let's see if we've got that as an option. A, many students do not make good use of their study leave. No, that's one of the 2 reasons we've got to support our main conclusion. B, students who work hard find study leave useful. No, that would actually undermine the main conclusion, and it's used as an example here of a case where it doesn't apply as strongly. C, study leave is not the best way for students to gain high results. No, it's calling for something stronger than that, saying that we should ditch it, so it's telling us what we should do, the action. D, study leave ought to be abandoned, yes. E, traditional methods of education need to be updated to improve results. No, it's not talking about methods of education, it's about whether or not we go ahead with study leave. So the answer is D. Which one of the following phrases inserted in the blank space most logically completes the above argument? Land reform is urgently needed in the UK. It is well documented that around 2/3 of Britain is owned by just 0.3% of the population. Many of the largest estates have been in the hands of the same families for centuries and were acquired under outdated feudal laws, often by means of aggression. If these families had any sense of social justice in the 21st century, they would by now have voluntarily surrendered all but the acreage they needed for personal privacy. ... The state should confiscate all excessive landholdings without compensation and redistribute them into the families of workers and taxpayers at affordable prices. So I think the ... will be something that goes along the lines of seeing as they haven't, or in the cases of those that haven't. So let's have a look at the options. A, in the current economic climate. B, on the other hand. C, this being the case. D, therefore legal grounds, and E, since they have not. So E fits well here. But let's have a look at the others. So you can imagine saying, in the current economic climate, the state should confiscate all excessive landholdings without compensation. So there's no reason to think that in the current economic climate, there's a stronger case for doing this than otherwise, at least from what we know in the passage. B, on the other hand, the state should confiscate. So this is not sort of an alternative point of view. This is actually a supporting alternative method. So it doesn't fit to go on the other hand. C, this being the case, well, if that were the case, if families had surrendered the acreage, there would be no need for the state to confiscate them because there'd be nothing to confiscate. So that doesn't make sense. D, therefore on legal grounds, no, it doesn't sound particularly legal to confiscate this land anyway, at least by the standard laws we have now. Which one of the following most closely parallels the reasoning used in the argument? All trees have leaves, an oak is a tree, therefore oaks have leaves. So all A have B, AC is A, so therefore C has B. Another way we can put this is to say that within the set of A, they all have leaves, so they're all within the wider set of those that are within B, things that have leaves. An oak is within A, so an oak is in here, is C, and so C is definitely within B. Let's look at the options. A, all leaves grow on trees. That plant has leaves, therefore that plant is a tree. This is saying all leaves grow on trees, so all things with leaves, right, all the places where leaves grow are within a set of trees. That plant has leaves, therefore that plant is a tree. So this looks very similar. Yeah, so it's A. Let's have a look at the others anyway. B, all oaks have leaves, that tree has leaves, therefore that tree is an oak. No. This is all oaks have trees, so all oaks are within the set of things that have leaves. That tree has leaves, therefore that tree is an oak. But that tree could be anywhere, it could be over here, outside of the oaks. So no, B does not make sense and it doesn't parallel the reasoning either. C, all plants have leaves, so all plants are within the set of things that has leaves. That leaf is an oak leaf, therefore all plants are oaks. No, that's a completely different format, quite clearly from just the way it's stated. D, all trees have leaves. That plant has leaves, therefore that plant is a tree. So A, all trees have leaves, all trees are within the set of things that have leaves. That plant has leaves, therefore that plant is a tree. For the exact same reason as B, D is wrong because it could be somewhere in here. So it doesn't actually make sense, and so it doesn't also parallel the reasoning. Check E, all trees have leaves. That plant is not a tree, therefore that plant does not have leaves. So this is clearly following completely different logic because it's got knots in it. So this is not going to be the answer. The answer is A. How much will Probe bill her? Megan pays a subscription to Probe Information Services. This is an internet service which allows her to access up-to-date information relevant to her job. The leaflet that came with her application form is reproduced below. Megan's call charges are at local set rates of 10 cents for up to 2 minutes and 5 cents per additional minute or part of a minute. In the first month, Megan sees detailed information on 5 companies and used the other services a total of 42 times. Okay. So we've got the inquiry costs, and then we've got the phone call costs. I mean to add them up. So first of all, the inquiry costs. Important to note, the question is Probe. How much will Probe bill her? So the call costs actually are not something charged by Probe. They're an information services provider. So we are only going to worry about the inquiry costs, which makes it quite an easy question. Because we've got 50 cents per inquiry, and we're using detailed information 5 times, so that's $2.50. And then we've got these other services being used 42 times. Each of those costs 10 cents, so that's $4.20. So $2.50 plus $4.20 equals $6.70, which is B. How many possible combinations, including drainage, could the students choose from? A group of construction students must choose their specialist options from the following list: bricklaying, damp proofing, drainage, flooring, joinery, plastering, roofing. Each student must choose 3 options. The available options may be combined with each other in any way, with the exception of the restrictions that damp proofing and drainage together may not be combined with bricklaying or plastering because of timetable constraints, and that students choosing joinery must also choose flooring. Okay. How many possible combinations, including drainage, could the students choose from? Okay, so let's start with drainage. And drainage can go with, let's say, bricklaying. Can drainage go with bricklaying? Yes, but not with damp proofing at the same time. So when it's with bricklaying, not with damp proofing, but it can be with flooring. And when it's with bricklaying, can it be with joinery? No, because students choosing joinery must also choose flooring, so we don't have to worry about that. Can it be plastering? Yeah, that's fine. We can have drainage, bricklaying, and roofing. Okay, now drainage with damp proofing now. But in this case, it can't be with bricklaying because that's not allowed when it's with damp proofing. Can it be with flooring? Yeah. Drainage, damp proofing. Can't be with joinery because that would also require flooring. Can it be with plastery? Yes. No, it can't be with plastery based on the rule. And it can be with flooring. With roofing. Okay, so now let's try drainage with flooring. Okay, and that can be with joinery. Drainage, flooring, and plastery. Okay, and drainage, flooring, and roofing. And we've got drainage, joinery, but then it has to have flooring, drainage, plastery, and roofing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. C. Which one of the following graphs could show the relationship between the number of books ordered in a month and the total saving on shop prices, allowing for postage charge? I'm a member of a book club. Every month I must choose at least one book. All books are sold at discount £2 on shop prices. I pay a fixed charge for postage regardless of what books I order. So I'm always paying this fixed price F, and then I'm paying the price of each book, but getting £2 off for each book on shop prices. And so this is asking, so as you order more books, how is it adding up? This £2 per book discount will add up by 2, but it will also have the initial postage charge, but the difference between each one should still be £2, right? Because each additional book results in an additional £2 saving, and the postage charge is the same throughout. So let's have a look at A. This is looking about a 2. It's looking about a 3. This is looking about just under 4, and this is looking about 6. This is looking about 8. So it could be, this doesn't look like it's increasing by 2 each time. Let's have a look at this one. So here, the distance is, this is about 3, this is about 5, maybe 6, and this is about 9. No, this is not changing by 2. This is about 3. This is about 5. This is about 7. This is about 9. Yeah, this looks like it could be the answer. The others, yeah, this is just going everywhere. And this one, okay, this looks about 2. This looks about 4. Looks about 6. Looks about 8. Looks about 10. The issue here is that there's no postage charge, so this can't be it. It must be C.